What's going on, YouTube? So if you're watching this video, I'm guessing that you have a distributor that's leaking on your 90s or even 80s Honda. So it could either happen from two places: in between the head and the distributor. There's an O-ring that can easily be replaced, removing the distributor and getting to that O-ring, which I did, and it took care of the big leak that I had. But I have another leak, and that leak is causing a misfire. So we're going to be replacing that seal inside the distributor that should take care of that oil leak inside. So I'm going to take the distributor off. There's only 3 bolts. There's 3 12s. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm going to start doing is taking these wires off. Now I'm going to use an old cap. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this just off the top of your head, but I don't, and I don't want to look it up, so I'm making this super easy. I had one of these just kind of laying around, so I'm going to use it to help me figure out where they go. So these just pull off. I'm sure most of you know that. And again, I'm just using this cap to remind me where they go. And wherever I take them off, I put them right back in the same spot. Okay. Alright, step 2. You gotta unplug this thing. So there's a little bracket you gotta pull this off from. You gotta go up with this little arm. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but there's a little arm there. You go out, and it's easier said than done with one hand. I'm going to do this off camera. There's just no easy way to show you guys. I'll try leaving you guys there and showing you guys, but I'm sure I'm not going to be able to do it. Oh, there you guys go. Okay, so there's that clip. Take it off the bracket, and you got one more clip right there. Just be careful, don't go squeezing too hard on things. This plastic is old and brittle. Alright, so now I'm going to be taking the distributor off the head, and before you do that, I would make some kind of mark to help you reinstall the distributor where it was. So someone already made a mark with a knife or a razor knife and scored it across the top of this distributor housing and the head. Made a small scratch mark going across. So that helps me put it back where it's supposed to be. You can do whatever you want as far as a mark to help you put it back in the same location. So you got 3 bolts holding it to the head. So there's one down here, one here, and one right there. They're all 12s. They're all the same size, so you don't have to worry about where they go. I got the bolts out, and this just pulls right out. But there is something I did want to point out, and I'll show you guys once I pull this off. There it is, came right off. Now, you see this guy here? Just pay attention to the orientation and that it is, because it's got to go back in the same exact way. One way I noticed its location is that there's a little straight line on this piece. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but there's a straight line on this piece here that catches the end of the camshaft. So this is towards the bottom for me. So I'll try to keep that in mind and put it in the same exact way. Okay, so we're downstairs in the basement. I'm on my desk. Before we go any further, I did want to show you guys part number and the little baggie I got of goodies here. So this guy on the bottom here is what's getting replaced on the inside of the distributor. And this is the part number on the baggie. And I bought this baggie and or parts on eBay. And I think it was like just over $10. So if you guys need it, there'll be a link in the description. But I wanted to see if this was a real genuine part, because there's a lot of counterfeit out there. And I typed in this part number on a website, and it's kind of correct, because it gives you and shows you the O-ring with the part number, and that's this O-ring here. But it doesn't give you the smaller inside gasket. And I remember when I went to go look for it, to order it on this website, which is Honda Parts Now, I couldn't find the inside one. Alright, so to take this apart, basically all you'll need is a Phillips screwdriver, some needle noses, and a little bit of grease. And maybe a flathead to push the seal out of its location inside the distributor. So here we go. I'm going to take the cap off. There's only 3 screws holding that down to the distributor body. Now I'm only going to use an impact to take things off but not put things back on. Should pull right off. Remember this piece back here? So you got to mark the shaft. If you don't, this distributor will be out of time and you'll have issues later on. So the way I did it, remember that mark I showed you guys? So I used that mark to mark the shaft that goes through the distributor. So there's a mark on the housing. It goes straight across like that. I lined up the mark on this round piece here to that mark on the housing, and then I scribed or scratched the shaft to have that same mark. Try to show you guys what I mean. Okay guys, so once you scribed or scratched or whatever you want to do to make a mark on this shaft to follow the rest of the lines to keep the right timing on the distributor, you're able to take this part, which needs to be removed, off the distributor. So what you got to do for that is take this pin out of the center of this piece off, and to do that there's a locking ring that keeps it in place. So you're gonna have to rotate it. Okay, you're able to spin it. Once you're over this hole, use a small flathead or whatever you think you can use to lift on that locking ring and lift that locking ring off and out. And there's the locking ring. Alright, so once you get the locking ring off, you're able to push that pin through. Now it doesn't matter which way it goes, out or in. Just push that straight through. Now you're able to pull this off. Okay. Now when you pull this off, pay attention to these guys. There's 2 washers and they're stuck together. I would just keep them together and put them back with the same side facing up. So I'm going to take this off and put this down like that, and I'm going to put it back the same exact way. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but that's what I'm going to do. Alright, we're back on this side of the distributor. Take the seal off for the distributor. We're going to take the rotor off. I rotated the rotor to expose the screw. This should come right off. take the cover off. Not sure if you guys can see that, but this oil that you see here should not be inside. So this was causing a misfire like I mentioned before. And I'm happy to be replacing this gasket or seal. So the next step we're going to take is removing these two screws. So I'm going to use a hand screwdriver for this, just because these screws are not exactly the hardest and they strip easy. So you want a screwdriver that's got a good head. Okay, and again, kind of keep an eye on where everything goes. Take a picture if you want. Now, to remove the coil out of its location, you got those two screws. Should come right off. Keep things together and organized. Coil pack comes right off. Next step is removing this igniter. To remove the igniter, you're going to remove 1, 2 screws, and that holds it down. Okay, you're going to have a little like holder for your wire. You can take that off. I'm going to try to keep it together. What you're going to want to do next is get some needle nose pliers. Take this center one off, and then take your end one off here, so you can take your igniter out of the distributor. Okay. Now there's a little, this end one here goes into a little groove on the igniter. Pull that straight out, then you're able to pull this guy out. We're almost there. We're gonna take off this guy here. There's only 2 screws, one there to remove that. And don't get these mixed up with the screws that came off the coil, because these are a little longer, so they probably won't bite down if you use them in the wrong location. Okay, so once you get those screws out, this comes right off. And to take this off, you're gonna have to remove these 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. Again, take a picture of where this wiring comes out of. You want to put it back in the same location. Alright, so now that you took the screws off, you're able to push this through, and this should all come straight out, as you see there. And I got lucky. The seal that I need to replace came with the shaft. Here it is. This thing is hard like a rock, so I'm not surprised that it was letting oil through. And what you want to do is clean this guy up here, because that's where your seal has to you know, seal up against the shaft. So if you see any oil that's like dried up, maybe you think it'll cause an issue, clean this up the best that you can so that seal does a better job. The end here isn't in the best of shape. You can feel a groove, so hopefully the seal does a good job. But if it doesn't, more than likely I'm gonna have to go to a junkyard and take or find another one of these and replace this part so the seal does its job, because if that groove is too deep, there is no seal that's gonna work. But hopefully that new seal does the job for me. Look at all that oil inside there. That's pretty bad. But normally this seal is sitting right there, and you can come in with a screwdriver and just push it through. pop right out. So let me clean the inside of this guy. It looks pretty bad. You want to make sure that the area where the seal sits in is cleaned off very well, or at least the best that you can. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. I got the seal in place. Hopefully you guys can see that. There it is. Just make sure when you drop it in there and you go to push it in there, make sure it's flat and flush. I used a 15 mil socket and an extension to help me push that seal all the way down and flat. But yeah, that's in there. I'm happy on its position, and we're gonna just put everything back together. So like I said, just make sure this guy's clean and you're able to put this thing back. And as you're putting it back, just make sure that you got the wires in the correct spot. Okay, got that wire in the right location, and this should just drop right into place now. There you go. Okay, once it's sitting correctly, give it a spin. Make sure it spins freely. That feels good. And yeah, keep going. Now this is where I recommend using a screwdriver, a handheld screwdriver, to put it all back together. You just don't want to cross thread anything, and the chances of doing that with a hand screwdriver are a lot less. Okay. I'm going to put this guy back on. This has a little pin. That pin goes in that hole. Those are going to be fun because it's magnetized in that area. Okay, so what you want to do is pay attention. There's going to be a gap between this piece here and that pickup right there. You're going to want to push this away all that you can, just so this doesn't go crashing when you put this back together. I would rotate this back, cinch this screw down. Same with this side. Push this away the best that you can. Push against it. Hold it with my finger. Tighten that screw down. Rotate this and make sure it's not hitting. Seems to be good. Alright, so now we put the igniter back in. Before you do that, I'd give these a squeeze, just to make sure they're not too loose and causing an issue. Just grab the little ears, squeeze them closed. So you want to put the center one back on. Drop this into position. Put this one in its location on the side. There we go. Drop that in place. Plug that back in. Okay, give them a little tug test. Seems okay. And find your screws. Next step is the coil. This just drops right into place. You can't get it wrong. Screws. Coil's back in. 2 more screws for the wires on the coil. So that's back together. So here's a little helpful hint. If you ever take your cap off and there's oil inside your cap, that means that one seal inside that distributor, like I just replaced, is going bad. Put the cover back on. Rotor, and this is keyed, so it only goes on one way. There it is. Rotate it to find your screw hole. Put the seal back on for your distributor cap. Alright, so once you get the rotor back on, you can put this guy back on. So again, put these back in the same position. This was facing up. There's 2 of them, at least for me. Your markings on the shaft, you're going to want to line them up with the mark on the base like I did. Same with this piece here. You got that straight mark going across it. Put it in its location. Reinstall your pin and reinstall your locking ring. And there it is. The housing straight mark, the mark on this piece here, and the shaft has its mark all lined up, so you're sitting correctly, and this should be timed correctly. And now you just put your cap back on. Okay, so it's all back together. Here's that outside O-ring that I was talking about, that if it's leaking in between the distributor and the head, this is the O-ring that you would want to replace. I'm not going to replace mine because I just did it, and I know that it's genuine because I bought it from a genuine Honda parts dealer. But if you buy this kit from eBay, it comes with a new O-ring, and all you have to do is just peel that out, replace it with a new one. Maybe put a dab of oil on there, so when you put this back into position, you don't tear it or nick it somehow. So this is back together. We're gonna go throw this back in. All right, back in the garage. And before you put this back on, I'd put a little bit of oil on that O-ring. And just remember which way the orientation this came out in. Okay, so the line was down for me. And you're gonna have to look in there, look at the end of the camshaft, and try to reinstall it. There you go. Just like that. It should stay put once it's in position. So at this point you can reinstall your 3 bolts, and that's what I'm gonna do. And go ahead and put it to where it was before. And I'll follow that mark, whatever you made. Again, someone made a mark on the distributor housing, and at this point of the head, straight across, someone scored a line across it. So that's what I'm going to use to put that back together. Okay guys, so I'm putting this back together. One little helpful hint for you guys. Sometimes they don't click back into place as firmly as you want it. If you bend these little ends here out a little bit, just a little bit, it'll click back in position just like you remember. So I bent those. Oh yeah, you guys hear that? That's not gonna come off. Just a little helpful hint for you guys. All right, got this all back together, bolted down. That's clipped back together. Back on the bracket, all the wires back on. I'm gonna give it a start and see what happens. Okay guys, there it is. back together, and she is running smooth. So I hope this video helps. There's no need to unplug the battery for this. It's pretty straightforward. Anybody can do this. Save yourself some money. Hopefully that seal works out for you too. And you're able to save some money. Alright guys, so if you're into Honda content, please subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. If it helped you out, and if it didn't, give it a thumbs up too. Alright, see you guys on the next one.
When you buy a power tool, you need it to last.
It's ice cream.
It's ice cream, Papa tries it.
It's ice cream. Look.
Needs of the toughest job sites again and again. Upgrade to Hercules today.
Baby, try it. It's ice cream. Try it, baby. No, you're not gonna have it. Okay.